Hello, Internet! Welcome to episode 304 of the Assorted Calibers podcast, the second better podcast. It's a little bit for everyone. I'm Weer'd, and tonight we are having an ACP Round Table. Change that. I bet it was Xander.
That's what you get.
Was it you, Erin?
It was not me.
It was probably Xander.
I was about to say, that's what you get for giving him edit access.
I cannot allow my brother Xander to get blamed for something I did.
Okay, well.
I'm just saying, I think you should know my sense of humor by now, and that's not it.
Yeah.
Whereas Xander and I, and to some degree Oddball, our senses of humor overlap way too much.
And you know I'm innocent because that would require looking at the show notes.
All right, so with me.
Oh
tonight,
yeah, actually, Oddball, don't you have to add a link to the show notes now? It's not 10 minutes before the show starts.
This is true.
The shenanigans have already started. So
Make
yes,
sure it's a 30-minute video.
God, Erin's gonna be spitting mad.
I will have you know that I am a lady. I swallow.
This is not a mag dump.
Erin, you just killed me.
It's not a mag dump. All right.
I technically said nothing filthy. It's all in
Totally
the inference.
Yes, I understand. I'm just reminding the cast of characters as we slowly cross the river Styx.
Like, there's the line right there. Boink, boink, boink. I'm not crossing you. I'm not crossing you.
So I mentioned Xander, but Xander unfortunately got heat stroke working on the farm today and is now passed out.
He is sir not appearing in this film.
Yes. You have heard the lovely voice of David.
I'm still trying to recover from my death from Erin's comment.
Excuse me, I have a lovely voice too. Thank you.
I'm getting to you.
He always saves the best for last. That's why I went first.
We also have the very lovely Oddball.
I have added a link in the show notes.
This link added by Oddball. Adorable.
Go ahead and click it.
Thank you, Google Docs, for giving me the ability to hover and preview.
Yes, I am.
Yes, thank you so much for that.
Nobody delete that.
That is perfect.
Nobody delete that. That stays in the show notes.
Oh, I'm really glad I peed before we started the show.
Yes.
Or I would have peed after we started the show.
And of course, the most loveliest of all the voices, Erin Paulette. How are you doing, Erin?
Most loveliest of all the what?
The voices.
Okay.
The ones in his head.
You're the prettiest princess.
It's like it kind of like you said vorces. Like it's like forces, horses. What?
Erin, we know that you're not a horse. You're a pony.
Yeah,
that's fair.
You're not nearly large enough to be a horse.
Yeah. Wow. The last week has really beat me up, and I currently am fighting off a headache. So I don't know how good I'm gonna be. We may get halfway through and I get drunk and collapse, but you know what? We'll find out. That's half the fun.
I mean, that does sound like fun. All right, Oddball. Actually, I'm save Oddball for last. David, how are you?
Oh, so now suddenly I'm not being saved for last. So clearly I'm not the best.
Well, you're saved for the last for the intro, and I'm asking you how you are. But I know that Oddball has something to share.
Okay, fine.
I am mixed. I was working on some prints that I hope to have done before LibertyCon this coming weekend, and part of my printer broke. One of the belts that moves the bed for printing. So,
that sucks.
Yep. So I immediately ordered the replacement parts, and Amazon said it would be here Monday by 9 p.m., and now it's Tuesday or Wednesday by 9 p.m., and we're leaving Thursday. So
yeah. Amazon pulled the same crap from me. I realized as in all the excitement
you lost count yourself.
I lost count of getting a very specific gift from my daughter for her graduation. She wanted one of the owls with the cap and gown on.
Aww.
and I luckily quickly hopped on Amazon and saw that one would arrive tomorrow, which is the official last day of school, and said, "Okay, go for it." And now it's going to arrive like next week.
Yeah.
Dicks.
Well, one of the things that irked me about this was the package got to a transshipment center last night at like 8:30, and that transshipment center is 3.5 hours from my house.
Yeah, the guy on the truck just forgot to stop at your place.
Or something. I don't know. But it's just, it's like, can I tie some rubber bands together and make it work as a belt just for that one print? No, I cannot. That's not how that works.
No.
So, and as I was mentioning to Oddball before you guys hopped on, I have been basically running that printer every day for about 8 months. So I've got this weird withdrawal going on right now where I can't check on the printer to see how it's doing. But other than that, things are doing all right. Starting to pack for LibertyCon.
You know what would help with that withdrawal?
A new
What?
3D printer?
No, if you wrote something for blue collar prepping, I bet that would help fill the void.
That might very well. I could actually, I could possibly repurpose something if I don't have something new. But yes, I can do that tomorrow. I'm adding it to my to-do list right now.
And Oddball, do you have anything to share?
Well, I had to deal with a lady. It took me 20 minutes to convince her. No, seriously, look to see if the power is on your computer. Oh, it's not on. Yeah, turn it on. Was that what you were talking about?
Well, there was something else as well.
A surprise.
I was hoping to have some things printed out and assembled by LibertyCon, but all of those have failed and I'm not going to have it. So, was that what you were talking about?
There was also the positive surprise you told us about.
Right. My wife's looking at a new car and she thinks she knows what she wants.
Oh, what has she decided on?
She's going to go look at the BMW 230i.
Nice.
Still not what Weer'd was talking about.
Right. I was depressed and annoyed, and I went on Gunbroker, and bad things happen when that happens.
We have different definitions of bad things.
I have the same definition as a bad thing.
So I won this auction. A Walther PPK in 380. One of the ones from when Inner Arms was importing them. So it has the adjustable rear sight and practically no beaver tail, so it'll happily chew on whoever's and
it's a Shark Girl gun.
So I can properly pretend to be James Bond.
And it's not a PPKS.
And it's not a PPKS, no.
No, but it is a PPK, not a PP.
Correct.
You're welcome.
You ever going to shoot
Those
that Ruger
silly
Max 9,
Germans.
David?
Pardon?
Are you ever going to shoot that Ruger Max 9?
As soon as we get one on the range counter that I can shoot, I will be. But we have only gotten a few of them, and none of them are marked for the range counter yet.
All right, so when you say range counter, that is your term for guns which people can rent.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, the rental range.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, they don't let us take sale guns out onto the range to test fire them, because then they are no longer new guns. They can be fired by the factory, but not by us.
It's like that line from Lord of War. Now the gun's used and it doesn't sell for as much.
Yes. Although we're, regardless, not allowed to shoot people in the head for flirting with women.
All right. So the reason why I have brought all of you here today is I was starting to put the show notes together, and I'm just like, this is solidly round table material. We have had some huge news.
Huge.
And so let's just start with the biggest one, because this is pretty awesome. The Supreme Court. I honestly didn't even know that they were actually hearing this case. Like, the arguments were going on, but then the decision came out, and it is Garland v. Cargill, and it was.
I thought it was Cargill v. Garland, actually.
Well,
yes. You never put the loser first.
Okay.
I'm sorry. You never put the government always goes first. Pardon me, but you never refer to it by the loser.
Understood. But this is the court case that was challenging the challenging the bump stock ban. Yep.
Which was not a law.
It was not a law. No. And so this was also we were just talking about this just before the show started, that this was not ruled as a Second Amendment case. This was instead done with the essentially on a Chevron deference case, where the ATF was essentially changing the law to suit their desires, and they are not a legislative body, and they're not allowed to do that. I'm trying to find the vote, because was this?
It was 6-3.
Mm-hmm.
It was 6-3.
Yep.
So yeah, this was pretty awesome. Did I screw up anything or miss anything in there?
Not really. Other than it was Justice Thomas that wrote the majority, and he felt the need to include some pretty pictures to say, no, seriously, here's how a semi-auto works. And
yeah, it's pictures of anime girls with ARs.
I wish.
Well, apparently, he copied a lot of information from Firearms Policy Coalition and included a link to a JAFE showing how this worked. And this has got the legal geniuses over on the R-Law subreddit just completely losing their freaking minds.
Because he lifted stuff from an Emeritus briefing, which is but standard.
Well, the thing is, they are claiming it's just
plagiarized it.
Yeah, and it's corrupt and unethical and things like that, and it's just like, really, I mean, the entire point of, well, not all amicus briefs, but some are to go, hey, court, we've got some information we think you should know, and here's the information. And when the judge thinks that it's irrelevant, and of course, properly attributed the quote, because that was another one of the things, plagiarism. It's just, look, I can understand being upset by the ruling if you're anti-gun, but this is just, it's derangement syndrome. It's like, of all the things to be upset about, this...
Mm-hmm.
And since I've got the floor, and I know you're all itching to say something, one of the things we were talking about right before we got started, I was on the Pink Pistols Twitter, and I was not exactly trolling, but crap posting. There's actually a tweet by a senator I've never heard of. If y'all know who Martin Heinrich is, that's fine. And he says, tomorrow the Senate will vote on my bill to restore the federal ban on bump stocks after a radical conservative majority on the Supreme Court struck the Trump-era ban down on Friday. Americans are counting on us past my Bump Act. So first of all, a backronym, the Bump Act. How very cute. I don't even know what it stands for. I don't care. And so I responded under the Pink Pistols Twitter account, because that's where I do a lot of the pot stirring. I said, this is how government is supposed to work, with legislators writing bills and taking the consequences of those bills if they prove unpopular with their constituents, not hiding behind unelected bureaucrats who make the same regulations they enforce. FYI, I still oppose your bill. So, I mean, I kind of tweaked him, but the fact remains, this is at least the legal way to do it. You know, if you want to declare bump stocks are machine guns, then you write it into the black letter law of the NFA and you amend the NFA, and that's how it's made legal. I don't like it, but that's how it's done. You don't just, oh my God, I'm getting on the Chevron deference soapbox. Y'all know how I feel at this point.
Right.
Well, and it wasn't even really Chevron deference. It was straight up, no, here's what the law says. And you are including things that are outside of the definition given by the law. And oh, hey, here's where in the past you said multiple times that that these devices don't fit in the definition.
Yeah, didn't they say it like something like around 10 times? They said it a bunch of times.
A bunch of times, yeah.
I'm just saying it wasn't just like
Martin
one or two
Heinrich
off.
Is the senator from New Mexico.
Oh, okay. You know, I still haven't heard much about that governor who tried to ban firearms in Albuquerque.
Yeah, that disappeared completely.
I guess she didn't get impeached?
Sadly.
Okay.
That does suck.
Yeah.
Stupid shit hurt.
Yeah, but I mean, at the very least, there was an injunction that was put on it that basically the injunction ran for over the time that the ban was supposed to be. So it was just, yeah, I've completely neutered your bill. What are you going to do about it? You're going to try and appeal? I'm guessing she decided not to.
Well, I believe she decided to impose a less strict ban to try to see how far she could, what she could actually get away with. It was very much well, I tried the big ask, let me try this.
Pushing the Overton window, not necessarily the Overton window, but pushing the window. You ask for the big thing that you know you're not going to get, so you can ask for a littler thing that makes you look more reasonable.
Now, one of the things that has come out of this decision that is interesting is actually not in the that a lot of people have latched onto, is not in the majority decision, but is actually in the dissent.
This is actually my favorite part of this. I mean, I like the fact that the ATF got slapped down. I mean, I was actually talking to my mother-in-law about this and saying, you know, oh, why would anybody want a bump stock? And I'm like, really, nobody cares about bump stocks. It's not bump stocks aren't the important thing here.
Yeah.
You know, I think I said it on the show. I was looking forward after the Mandalay Bay shooting. I was hoping that all the people that said, oh, Trump is playing 3D chess, you know, or 4D chess, or whatever the number of dimensions that Trump is playing. Trump is a tactical genius. He's just going to be he's the greatest president ever. Everything he's doing, he's 6 steps ahead of the Democrats and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, all right, cool. If this is true, then what Trump will do is declare bump stocks to be machine guns and then say, well, but because they're machine guns, we're not going to confiscate people's guns. So what we'll do is we'll open up the machine gun registry as for an amnesty period and let people register their bump stocks as machine guns, and just literally just have another
register machine guns.
Correct. Just have a machine gun amnesty and let everybody register their ARs or all of that as machine guns, so that
their coat hangers.
Exactly. Have a whole bunch of brand new guns into the machine gun registry, which would both, number one, increase the supply. Also, it would lower the demand. And so therefore it would lower the price of all of these things.
Actually, the demand would probably react by expanding.
That's true. But either way, you would suddenly get a whole bunch of more guns and a bunch of like neat guns, added to the register. Oh, like the Scorpion Evo pistols. Oh, can you imagine like a bunch of those as machine guns?
How many people who own crisp pistols would register them as machine guns?
Yeah, because that's the only way they make sense.
Right? Mm-hmm. Or P90s.
Yeah.
Could you imagine a whole herd of full auto P90s on the market?
Yeah, and also we got to remember, just in case people didn't quite know how the rules work, the machine gun is essentially the king of all NFA items. A machine gun can be all of the NFA items all at once. So once you have it registered as a machine gun, you can cut the barrel down. You could do all sorts of stuff. The ordnance lab, specifically when they were launching Molotov cocktails from can cannons, put it on a full auto registered lower, just even though it's a single shot, but they put it on a machine gun just to make sure that the ATF wouldn't say you're manufacturing a destructive device.
So we have to come kill your dogs.
Correct. And so, yeah, but that was my hope, was that Trump would use it as an excuse to open up that. And for that would be a fair trade. We lose bump stocks, or bump stocks become part of
we don't lose bump stocks, but bump stocks get regulated like machine guns, but we can have all the machine guns we want.
Correct. And then we don't, and nobody wants bump stocks because no, I'll just I'll just why buy a bump stock when I can buy a drop-in auto sear?
Exactly.
And where somebody just suddenly just like drank a whole like 5 pots of coffee and just spent all night just stamping out
auto sears.
Auto sears, so they could just quickly register all these auto sears.
And basically, that's kind of what they did the night before the Firearm Owners Protection Act Hughes Amendment went into effect.
Yeah. That was where the what was the Stemple, wasn't it?
Stemple,
yes. Yeah, he was one of them, but they also with the auto sears is they punched out tons of those and registered them, or started the registration process, which counted because. Yep. But Stemple was the guy who registered. I don't know how many hundreds or possibly thousands of basically tubes.
Yep, just a tube.
I would like to point out that Oddball started to talk about Sotomayor and then had the wheel jerked out of his hand.
Oh yeah, and then ADHD took over.
I will just finish and throw a little bit of shade on Trump before I give the floor back to Oddball to talk about the thing that I'm very excited about. Is again, number one, this was all Trump's doing. Number two, and number two, again, Trump did all of this for absolutely nothing in return. He gave nothing politically. We lost something for it, and he is allegedly a pro-gun president. This is a big deal as far as Trump and the Second Amendment is that this was for nothing. And so, all right, so Oddball,
take it away.
Tell about the thing that I'm super excited about.
I'm curious which one, because there are actually 2 things in her dissent that are noteworthy.
So the big thing that I've seen that was noteworthy was she talks about in her dissent about how bump stocks take AR-15, the AR-15, which is very much in common use.
There you go.
And turns it into the semi-auto, the common AR-15, semi-auto's AR-15 and makes it a machine gun. By her stating that it's in common use, that sets up for a distinct possibility of assuming we can get an assault weapons ban case in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, Oddball, I just had a revelation. Is that all the people that are watching the Supreme Court have been mentioning. Since I am not really an expert on this, but essentially the Supreme Court, keeps, convening to take on which case they're going to take on and which cases are they going to turn away. And they keep the Illinois case has been in limbo. And I mean, I can't imagine that this was their plan. But
do they have a plan?
And I think there's at least 3 firearms related cases that they're taking up this year. I want to say there's a 4th one.
I also want to say there were a 4th. I'll get back to you on that.
I'll let me get this thought out.
Yeah.
But it would be kind of delicious if an assault weapons ban got in front of them, and in all of the firearms related cases, in obviously in Bruin, but also in McDonald and Miller, or not Miller, Heller, all of those are saying, common use guns that are in common use are kosher.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to say, to quote Sotomayor, he was very much one of the most liberal on the court, and has shown to be pretty anti-gun.
Extremely anti-gun.
To be able to quote her saying, "Look, you're saying that these are in common use."
In the 3rd sentence, no less.
Yeah. The other.
The 4, I looked them up. Barnett v. Raoul, Bevis v. City of Naperville, Harrell v. Rule, and Culkins v. Pritzker.
Okay, and that's missing out on one of them that was really a First Amendment case, not a Second Amendment case, but was Second Amendment adjacent, which was the NRA's case where the state of the state of New York had officials on official business telling insurance companies, "Yeah, we'll treat you a lot better if you don't work with them or other Second Amendment organizations."
And that one was unanimous.
Oh yeah, because that
goes beyond the pale.
Yeah, that's one of those. No, you can't straight up say no. You can't work with this perfectly legal organization. It would be a shame if your business burned down.
Right.
I
mean, it's the New York government, so they are basically mob enforcers.
Right, and frankly, I really wish that there was a mechanism to punish circuits when a Supreme Court hands out a unanimous decision.
Yeah, which is not common.
Yeah, you can't get these 9 people to agree on what to have for lunch.
Mm-hmm. You can't even get them all to agree to order from the same restaurant.
Right. To have them all say, hell no, this is just wrong. For a case like that to get to them is
they're openly saying
shameful on the lower courts.
Yeah, you were asleep during law school.
Yeah.
Did you get your law degree from the Cracker Jack box?
So the other thing I thought you might mention, Oddball, and maybe you were getting to it, is where Sotomayor quoted the very famous legal aphorism of if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it must be a duck.
Yes.
Even if it's not a member of the family Anidae.
Exactly.
However it's pronounced.
Yes. The statement of it may not mechanically be the same as a machine gun, but it's close enough that it should be treated as the same anyways. So,
that's not how that... Again, did you get your legal works from a Cracker Jack box?
Yeah. But, it's important that SCOTUS has a Latina voice on the court.
Wise Latina.
Yeah, wise Latina, I'm sorry.
Not just any Latina.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. That's like, I am far more excited about Sotomayor's dissent than I am about the actual decision. The actual decision is wonderful. And it'll certainly, go well for citing on the if in the event. You know what? Let's segue. It will be it will be an excellent thing for if the government appeals the Mock v. Garland pistol brace decision.
Yes.
Yeah. Which I've said from the beginning, it in my mind is the harder case to argue for us.
Pistol braces?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely see the extra challenge from that, because a short-barreled rifle with a standard stock and a pistol with an arm brace are functionally the same.
Yeah.
Whereas a machine gun and a rifle with a bump stock are not functionally the same.
Right. And people that are using an arm brace in the same way one would use a shoulder stock, yeah, it's mechanically doing the same thing.
Right. Yes, they are technically they are misusing the product, but the product is easy enough.
Yeah.
I mean, the initial purpose of it was beautiful.
Yeah.
But all that being said, what happened in the courts
with the arm brace?
Yeah.
Well, with the arm brace, they with that one, the courts decided that the ATF did not follow the rules in proposing and enacting the new rule.
Yeah, and so the decision was vacated, which Oddball, you were getting into all the minutia on like what exactly. I was not aware of exactly how this went down, but
he explained it. I'm still not aware.
And it's one of those things of also, once again, I must feel the need to say, I am not a lawyer. I did not go to law school. It's been a long time since I've stayed at a Holiday Inn. But yeah, the difference. You were asking about the difference between vacating the rule and a permanent injunction against it, and I believe a good portion of the difference is purely language as far as practical outcome goes. A permanent injunction is the court saying, no, you're not allowed to do the thing. Stop it. While vacating the rule is the court saying, yeah, for whatever reason, this rule or law or whatever violates the Constitution for whatever reason, or just or we decide that the previous decision isn't correct or whatever. So we're vacating it. It no longer exists. They are removing it from the books. So you can't really do a permanent so it's not really a permanent injunction to remove it from the books. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like I said, from a practical standpoint, for you or me or all of our lovely listeners, there's not really much of a difference. It's just you put an injunction against an action or a person. You vacate a rule or a law or decision. That's my understanding, and like I said, I am not a lawyer.
So I'm not claiming to be right.
You're a lawyer the same way that Weer'd is a doctor.
So I'm not claiming to be right here, but I think maybe I've got a clarification, and you can tell me if I have it correct or not. You can enjoin the enforcement of a law while that law is still on the books. But when
Correct.
you vacate the law is no longer on the books to be enforced.
Correct.
Okay.
And so a lot of times, the low, especially the lower courts, will put an injunction or what have you on people enforcing the rule or law, because they know there's still stuff that will probably need to get settled out. But in this case, the judge went, no, this law just no. And also the judge straight up said, yeah, we're not even going to have a case about this. I'm not. You guys have put in your preliminary arguments, and that's all I need. There's no reason to actually do the trial and have the oral arguments, et cetera, et cetera.
We are not going to waste the people's time and money on this BS.
Yeah,
the plaintiffs have won, so obviously there's no need for me to hear the other opinions. It's done.
Right. Yeah, from what you guys handed me, there's not even a question to be asked about this case. So we're not going to bother.
Sounds fair.
Yeah. So as I mentioned, they could still appeal this up to. Is SCOTUS the only one, or is there another? Do you know if there's another?
That was the Mock v. Garland. That was just at the circuit level.
Okay.
So honestly, it's just getting started. And also, as I've said in a couple of, and other people have said elsewhere, quite frankly, there is, it's getting taught, it got hit due to procedural reasons, and there's nothing stopping the ATF saying, okay, yeah, you're right, turning around and proposing a new rule that looks remarkably like the rule that they had just adopted until the court told them they couldn't, and actually going through the correct procedure and adopting the rule in 6 months time, however long they're supposed to wait for comments and all that fun stuff. This is not a mag dump.
Just say all the curse words. Weird doesn't mind editing that.
Yeah, sorry.
Good start. Half of this show is going to be Weird thumping the microphone.
And now on to George Carlin's 7 words that you can't say on the radio.
Right. Well, having having said those, I think that leads into something that is not good news, and as a Pollyanna, I would argue that in light of these, maybe, but let's be honest, it's not going to make a difference. But the lovely people at YouTube have updated their firearms policy, and they are. It is. It's making things even tougher for the our beloved firearms content creators on YouTube. But one of the things that I wanted to mention is one of their rules are you will get a channel strike if you are seen using accessories that convert a firearm to automatic fire, such as bump stocks, Gatling triggers, drop-in auto sears, or conversion kits. And obviously, drop-in auto sears and conversion kits will, I assume if it's a true automatic conversion kit, would convert a firearm to full auto, and may or may not be legal depending on what paperwork you possess. But the bump stocks and Gatling triggers openly, and the Supreme Court has said, do not convert a firearm to full auto.
Yep.
But
they're not making law or regulation. They are making private policy. Policy for a private company, which is frustrating and annoying, but not illegal.
Well, and also they can point out, if you really want to go there, they can point out that there are some states that now have laws on the books saying that no, bump stocks and Gatling triggers do in fact make your firearm into a machine gun. It's just
yes,
U.S. federal law does not.
Right. On the other side of that, it doesn't matter what a state makes illegal. It is not illegal to read about it.
Right.
So if you buy a book in New York that talks about people having machine guns, that's not illegal.
Right.
So it's just it's another instance of YouTube playing social checkers.
Well, and they also the second bullet point is accessories that enable firearms to simulate automatic fire.
Right. Yep. Now, with the first bullet point, I do wonder how that's going to affect some of Brandon's future videos, because he is an 07 SOT, and he has taken parts kits and built them back into full auto firearms.
Mm-hmm.
Can he no longer do those videos on YouTube?
Yeah. Now, these are, and these are looking at it again on YouTube's page. This is sell firearms or certain firearms accessories, or provide instructions on manufacturing any of the following.
Right. And the selling has been part of YouTube for quite a while.
Right. Yeah.
And of course, with these new regulations, I'm sure that they will be applied evenly and consistently with all YouTubers, as they have done with all the previous rules.
Right. Well, I just on a whim went into YouTube while you guys were talking.
It's pronounced whim.
And typed in shooting heroin. and interestingly enough, let's see, there's a couple of YouTube shorts of people shooting heroin. And then let's see, one in my search, 1, 2, 3, and then a few more than 4, and keep going. But like, there are literally videos where the thumbnail is a needle with heroin in it, in poking into somebody's arm.
Now, the channels that have those, are they the channels for news organizations like CBS or anything, or are they private?
One is New York Times, and the rest are, I think, Columbus Dispatch. Some are Vice News.
Right, but some are just individual accounts.
Yes.
Just out of curiosity, in what state is shooting up heroin legal?
So here's a cool thing. In these United States, diacetyl morphine is 100% illegal. A doctor can't even write a prescription for it for pain. There are certain places, I think Canada and certainly some places in Europe, where?
Europe.
Europe.
Thank you.
Pardon my horrible
endeavor for
pronunciation.
accuracy.
Yes. But yeah, in Europe you can get heroin as a painkiller, very similar to Oxycontins or morphine or all of that. But in the United States, it is not legal for a doctor to even prescribe you heroin. So yeah, no, it is like as illegal can be. Like the only people that have heroin there are a few like research exemptions where if you are doing research on drug addiction and all that, where you can acquire heroin from the DEA. But as a general rule, every single one of these images is, if it takes place in the United States, is illegal.
Well, there's one other group that has ready access to heroin: drug addicts.
Yes.
Not legally, but
no.
And I did want to clarify and add on there. There is also a lot of this stuff will be now listed as age restricted content.
Yes.
Right.
Which means no monetization. The algorithm suppresses it.
Yeah, they're putting the thumb on the scale.
And of course, one of the things that is now age restricted is content showing use of a homemade firearm, e.g., 3D printed gun. And of course, you were talking about Brandon Herrera showing automatic firearm and high capacity magazines and homemade silencers, suppressors.
So speaking of high capacity magazines, there's something near the top that I thought was very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And so they say, don't post content on YouTube if the purpose is to, sell these accessories. These accessories include high-capacity magazines or belts carrying more than 30 rounds. Now, if they had just said high-capacity magazines, I would have known what they meant. But first of all, they say it high-capacity magazines or belts. Not like high-capacity magazines, comma, which would be a separate category, or belts carrying more than 30. It sounds like they're saying, high-capacity magazines that carry more than 30 rounds, or belts that carry more than 30 rounds. And I thought that was very interesting because this is the first time I have ever seen an anti-gun policy that at least correctly defines what a high-capacity magazine is.
Yeah, that actually is something that has not changed significantly. Some of Brandon's, not most recent, but some of his recent videos where he was doing shooting with something which had a standard magazine, and he explicitly declared that he had only loaded 29 rounds.
Right.
Well, really, all I'm getting at is that for something that's as rabid as this, the fact that they got the terminology right is surprising.
Yeah, I think that was an accident.
It may very well be, but I'm just saying, I'm looking at it, and of course, not a lawyer, but to my English grammar mind, that's what this says. And so, you can have standard capacity magazines. You just can't exceed 30 rounds. So, no drums.
And of course, they also do say that this guideline may not apply, for example, to use of firearms in artistic content such as films. We may also make exceptions for public interest content such as military or police footage, news footage, or footage from war zones. So, mainstream news, clips from Hollywood movies, those are fine.
Yep, the special people that give us lots of money.
But
also, on that list of things that you can't do, please note, this is not a complete list.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
So it's or anything else we feel like at the moment.
I'm changing the deal. Pray I do not change it further.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But, say, Ian at Forgotten Weapons or Othnius and May at Sea and Arsenal doing honest to God historic, talking about historic pieces and talking about history. No, we can't have that.
Well, Othnius has mentioned numerous times how YouTube has just randomly harmed them.
Yeah.
Where they'll put up a video and it's demonetized within an hour. and then they appeal, and about a week later, the demonetization is removed, but it's already gotten 500,000 views with ads that YouTube keeps the money for.
Mhm.
Right, and of course they're not going to do. They say, "Oh yeah, we made a mistake," but they're not going to
Yeah,
go
not gonna pay
back and
for it. Yep.
retroactively say, "Yeah, you were supposed to get the money for these views that you got."
Yeah,
Um,
and my favorite one is when they reported that after they did a video on a particular revolver, and for some reason it got a lot of attention and got them a lot of new subscriptions. And YouTube decided that those were bots, so they removed a bunch of subscriptions from people, including May.
yeah, that's
Oh.
actually happened a couple times.
Yes, yeah. So they
Uh,
removed the administrator of the channel from the subscription list,
right,
and she might be a bot.
and it's usually because this was a collaboration with so and so, or we were just on so and so's YouTube or something like that, where
Right.
they can go, well, yeah, this ties into we were just mentioned or on this person's YouTube that has a boatload more viewers than we do, so it makes sense that.
But not to YouTube.
Yeah. Now, I will say they are far from the only folks that have had silly games
Oh no, not even close.
played on them with these sorts of things. And it's not just gun related.
No.
I actually what's his name? The crazy German slingshot guy.
Jorg.
Yeah. He actually at one point was trying to organize a union for YouTube creators, basically with the intent of getting YouTube to actually treat them fairly, as in actually treat them by the rules agreed and laid out by YouTube.
Well, we can't have that, can we?
And unfortunately, that I don't think that's gone anywhere. And really, what needs to happen is there needs to be a bunch of YouTube creators that decide to get together and do a class action against Google. And I really think they probably have enough there to go after Google and win. It's just the problem of getting all of that coordinated.
Money.
Getting money pulled together.
I was going to say the same exact thing.
Yeah, money's a big deal, and there's the whole issue that a lot of the folks that are really hurt by this, YouTube's kind of their way of life, and there's others, and there's also a chunk of the popular the YouTubers that they're young and don't realize that they're being screwed over.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, we have discussions like this in some of the writing groups about baby authors and how they don't realize what some of the contracts that they are signing on to. It's not the same thing, but it's related. It's predatory.
Well, I saw, I forget who it was, but a mutual friend of ours that is a writer, stating again that if a publisher is asking the writer to pay to put up money, that writer needs to walk away.
Yes, that's something that Law Dog says repeatedly and regularly.
Yeah, I think it was
Law
Dog, but and he's not the only one that has been saying that over and over again.
Oh yeah, that is a regular drum that is banged in the writing groups. Larry's mentioned it on Writer Dojo. Mona Lisa Foster has mentioned it. Bunch of other writers I know.
Oh yeah, and a bunch of writers that I know that are very much not in that circle.
Mm-hmm. Some of the others I know
that are on the other side of the political spectrum. They're just these are these are scam artists, and unfortunately, they still exist because there are people that fall for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it's not just YouTube, but YouTube is just following the trend, basically.
Yeah.
It's just...
Okay, I think I've ranted enough. What's next?
Well, we already did the mock versus Garland pistol brace rule, so we can.
This is something that we touched on probably a lot more in depth in the ACP Mag Dump for those of you who are not subscribers. But
You can
we're
fix that very easily.
Yeah, we're not going to dive that deep into this one, but Hunter Biden, we talked about it on the show, was facing federal gun charges for lying on a 4473 to buy a 38 revolver, and while he was allegedly still addicted to drugs, and of course,
it's no longer allegedly.
That
was part of the felony conviction.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly
based on. It's not alleged anymore. It's
that's true. Yeah, he has been convicted of being a drug addict
in possession of a firearm.
And possession of
a gun while using narcotics, and lying on a 4473, and I believe the other one was lying on the background check, which is just odd because that background check was triggered by the 4473.
Mm-hmm. Yes. But, hey, Erin, by chance, do you have the Pink Pistols response to this? I thought you did a really, really good job with that.
Actually, it was just me as a public figure.
Okay.
Maybe I should have done it as Pink Pistols. I don't know. But yeah, I've got it handy, and I was hoping you would ask, or I would find an opportunity and interrupt.
Yeah, I mean, I love this, so I will let you to read that out.
Regarding Hunter Biden's conviction for buying a gun while being a drug addict vis-a-vis the Second Amendment, I think it's logically consistent to say the laws which decide who can and cannot exercise their constitutional rights suck and should be repealed, but until that time, everyone should be held accountable under those laws, especially the rich and powerful who use their wealth and power to escape that law. While I would prefer that this case be used to reduce governmental regulations on who can and cannot exercise their constitutional right to keep and bear arms, I would be satisfied with equal application of the law. Justice for all is always better than justice for some, but not for others.
Yes.
I've
shared that several places.
Thank you very much.
It is really, really good, and yeah, I certainly wouldn't squawk if it suddenly became an official Pink Pistols OBS statement, because it really is succinct and good, and I 100% agree with that. And so I will say that I personally don't much care for Hunter Biden, but that is mostly a partisan opinion and not something in the scope of ACP. And I will say the only real distasteful thing that happened here was the disposition of this gun, which was that Biden's girlfriend at the time, which was also his sister-in-law, took the gun away from him and threw it into a dumpster behind a supermarket, which happened to be right next to a school. So it was in the federal gun-free school zone. And there is allegations that are being denied that
I thought the gun-free school zone stopped at the property border of the school.
Nope.
It's like within 1,000 yards, meters?
I'm trying to remember if it's feet or yards, but
yeah.
Because that means that some entire cities would basically be off limits.
Correct. Yep. You are exempted from that if you have a concealed carry permit from that state, is my understanding of how that goes. Not that there is much legal precedence of people being charged with it, in which case then you're only breaking the rules when you actually cross into the property of the school. But either way,
else needs to be challenged again.
Mm-hmm. It's something that is practically never enforced, and part of that is probably because if it is ever actually enforced, then it'll almost certainly be struck down.
And it's also one of those laws that doesn't actually do anything, because, as David said, there are some cities that are all drug and gun free school zones. And all the people that have guns and all the people that do drugs just don't care. But
yeah, I just looked it up. It's 1,000 feet.
Yeah, so
And
I was looking up. It was like, oh, that's right. There were two of them because the first one was struck down.
And so, but yeah, so either way, besides that action, which was just gross negligent handling of a firearm, and potentially, again, Secret Service has denied getting involved in this whatsoever, but there is some pretty credible allegations against them for that, is a blatant abuse of power. But other than that, I would say, so I will first up say that the judge forbid Hunter Biden's team from challenging this on Second Amendment grounds. He wanted only to hear whether or not Hunter was a junkie at the time of this, and so was it truthful or not when he said that he was not addicted to drugs when purchasing this firearm. But I would argue that there is a really, really good Second Amendment argument here, because while historically there definitely was, there were times when if somebody showed up for a militia muster or something like that while they were drunk, their gun would get taken away, and they would likely get punished in some way, shape, or form for such negligent behavior. There was never any such behavior of somebody is an alcoholic, someone is a town drunk, and yet they own firearms, because they're either drunk and unarmed or armed and sober. So I think that this is very, very rife for a Second Amendment challenge. And again, I look forward to citing pro Second Amendment legislation and having the name Biden being in there.
Well, and also there's the interesting bit that I believe one of the cases in front of the Supreme Court that's coming up, I don't think the oral arguments have happened yet, is dealing with a nonviolent felon prohibited person. And I want to say specifically dealing with drugs. So that decision might make any sort of appeal process highly interesting. And of course, I believe it's already been declared that he's going to appeal the conviction, which I would if I was him.
Yep.
Just if for no other reason, what else are you going to do? Yeah.
I mean, does anyone doubt that if the appeal is denied or whatever, that his dad's not going to pardon him?
So I actually read, I don't know if it's one of the linked articles or not, but Biden did actually say, and therefore is on the record as saying, that he will not pardon his son. Now,
Correct.
That said, I mean, how do you know politicians are lying? Their lips are moving.
Exactly.
So, I don't...
He won't pardon him unless the appeal is not approved.
And
whatever.
And believe me, I'd say that about a Republican too. I don't trust any of them.
Yeah.
But I at least want it said that there's a record of him stating that he won't pardon Hunter. So, we
Read
can...
my lips. No new taxes.
Yeah, we can hold his feet to the fire if he doesn't do that.
So that's all. I just think, well, the one interesting angle that might bind up poor Hunter is that, and I don't know the legal precedent of this, is that lying to protect yourself from a law that is unconstitutional, is that a crime or is that not a crime?
Well, and also there's the thing of, and again, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm fairly certain that there has been case law stating that compelling someone to the lying on an official form and not committing to a crime, not admitting to a crime on an official form, that declaring that as a criminal act is not kosher. Specifically, I want to say there was a case dealing with a drug dealer not declaring his illicit drug trade on his taxes.
Well, there's been at least a couple of states that have openly said, no, you can't ask criminals to register their guns because that would violate their Fifth Amendment right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I will laugh myself into a coma if the defense of the son of a very obviously gun prohibitionist president is used to further Second Amendment rights.
It would be kind of hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Very. It's like, okay, which one is more important to you? Your anti-gun agenda or making sure your son doesn't get convicted?
Yep. And there's also the certain aspects of the parties that support removing drug legislation. So this is just another example of an innocent American being railroaded through this system for using recreational drugs that didn't harm anyone.
That is true.
I should have used the sarcastic voice for that, but too late.
Now, I've got this in here. If you want to watch it, you can. Erin chimed in and said, "I saw the video, the 20-minute video of Biden speaking to Everytown, and I'm not going to watch that."
And you can't make me.
That's right.
I am with Erin. I am a grown-ass adult, and I am heavily armed. You cannot make me watch that.
And I will say to the fine listeners, I watched it so you don't have to, and I was also recording while I was watching it so that I have it to cut up for a future Weird Audio Fisk. But yeah, it's there was nothing really earth-shattering in there. It was mostly him just asking for all the same stuff. Oh, ghost guns are bad. He talked about the new essentially interpretation that's kind of, I don't think that's really gone into effect yet, essentially stating that people will people are going to be selling guns as a business, and the Bipartisan Safer Community Act allowed him to reinterpret that into a similarly vague and awful status, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more too. But and then banning assault weapons and just the standard rhetoric. He repeated the you couldn't buy a cannon. I think he specified during the Civil War as opposed to the Revolutionary War, but he said you couldn't buy a cannon, which is absolutely not true, and everyone has said it's absolutely not true, but he clearly doesn't care. So it was all of that stuff, but the key point was he was saying this as the verdict against his son on weapons charges was going down, and he made no reference to it, no statement about it, and all of that, and immediately left the convention, wherever the heck it was, to return to Delaware and be with his son after he was convicted. So yeah, go Biden. And and also just another interesting thing is that the crowd kept shouting 4 more years, 4 more years, and he looked visibly angry, like he was upset that they were doing it.
Well, one of the sad elements of dementia, Alzheimer's, etc., is irrational anger. I've seen it with a couple of older people, relatives, that just appropriate of nothing, they just get very angry. So that's quite possible.
All right, so moving on to this next story, and I'm officially putting on my tinfoil hat. So
yes.
I am going to be doing a lot of reading between the lines of this story. So a man who I am not going to name he was a 58-year-old white man. He was indicted on charges. He's from Arizona. He was indicted in the attorney office in Arizona. So I assume that everything went down in the state of Arizona, though his plan
I
was...
believe he was arrested in New Mexico.
Okay. But
on his way east.
Yeah, his plan was to...
Sure. I've seen a couple of different things. Yeah, here it is. Stopped by law enforcement driving east from Arizona through New Mexico along Interstate 40.
Okay, so he was stopped in Arizona. Allegedly, he was traveling to Atlanta, Georgia, to to attack a black rally of some sort, and
Rap concert.
the idea. Say that.
A rap concert.
Ah, excellent. Yeah, a rap concert, and the age old spark a race war.
Yep.
Which
If that's not a trope, I don't know what is.
Yeah, and it clearly shows that he's not that bright because, hey, guess what? When that prick in Charleston, South Carolina, shot up that black church, guess what? All the races came through and said you're a jerk.
Well, not only that, but statistically speaking, how often is there gunfire at rap concerts in large cities?
I mean, there's also that. But let's see. But here's the big tinfoil hat thing is, number one, again, he's 58 years old, which is a little bit of an outlier in these sort of things. And he was indicted by a federal grand jury. So these are federal charges on firearms.
It's the U.S. The District of Arizona specifically, just to drive that nail in a little harder. So federal charges, District of Arizona. Go ahead.
And furthermore, he was arrested in New Mexico.
Yep.
It charges of firearms trafficking, transfer of a firearm for use in a hate crime, possession of an unregistered firearm.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. And so this, number one, I mentioned we were going to talk more about the engaging in a business situation. This reeks very, very similar to the case out of Arkansas, where the ATF team allegedly kicked down the airport manager's door, who was buying and selling all sorts of guns, and they were going all over the place. And allegedly, the guy engaged them, and they shot back, killing him. And I say all the alleged
body cameras were off. They covered over the house security cameras.
Correct. Yep. Which is all against department protocol. But there was just a recent news story that said that there was a video recording from the Arkansas sheriff's office, and yet, despite the fact that Steve Beeple-Sneets was in front of Congress defending the actions of his agents, nobody decided to present this video, which seems very fishy in itself. But the key factor that I'm saying here is that, number one, it does appear that this could very well be more porn for the, look at these evil people engaging in the business of selling firearms illegally. But also possession of an unregistered firearm in
Arizona.
So a bit of a clarification from the article. It states that including an unregistered short-barreled rifle.
Yes. Although there is some discussion I've seen whether it was a short-barreled rifle or an AR pistol.
I mean, that,
because what's the difference?
Yeah.
Especially to someone who's not familiar with firearms. But yes, if it's an unregistered NFA item, yes, that's doesn't matter where you live. That's still a problem.
Right. And it might shake out that, yeah, it was, like you said, it was an AR pistol. It's not a short-barreled rifle. But going from the indictments that were released from the police blotter, it was unregistered short-barreled rifle.
Okay. That actually makes more sense and is a little bit less fishy.
Right. And it, because it's the question of, like you said, if it's just a normal firearm, what do you mean he got hit for not having it registered in a state that doesn't have a registry?
Yeah. And there is no federal registry.
Right.
So unless we're talking about the NFA.
Right.
Right.
Which is the only federal registry that's legally allowed at this point.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so if in fact this is all on the level and this is indeed this guy's intention, I'm glad they caught him. Hope they'll throw the book at him. But also it's a bit of a strange story. And so, especially given like all the inconsistencies and bizarre behavior that was coming out of Arkansas. that it makes me skeptical. But that's all I need to dive into that. Let me take off my tinfoil hat.
There's a lot of, wait, what? About this story, as well as several others that we've discussed previously that time will tell.
Yeah.
Or it'll just disappear.
And then going down the show notes again, there's the link added by Oddball.
Yes.
Click on it at your own risk.
It's Oddball. You can trust his links, really.
All right. So do we have anything else?
I don't think I have anything right now.
So, listeners, by the time you hear this, Oddball, David and I will be at LibertyCon. So, if you're in the Chattanooga area, well, actually, at this point, if you haven't bought the tickets, too late. But if you are attending LibertyCon, come by and say hi.
Yeah, they can still come into the lobby and walk through the convention center. They just can't attend any of the events. They can go hang out in the lobby. They can go to the hotel restaurant because it's still a hotel.
Yep.
And if they just randomly took the elevator up and wandered into a room party, I don't think anyone would throw them out.
That is probably true.
Depends on the room party.
That's valid.
Well, I mean, there's good room parties and there's bad room parties. And Erin, do you know who likes good room parties?
I mean, I know the response you want from me, but I don't feel comfortable talking about them like that. Because if they're anything like me, I don't like room parties.
Oh, that is true.
You know who likes a good panel?
Our
listeners.
There you go. Need that one up for you.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks to each and every one of our listeners, and a very special thanks to all our supporters on Patreon. To be our Patreon patron, go to patreon.com/AssortedCalibersPodcast to sign up. And it's not just charity. It helps out the show a lot, but we're not begging and all that. We sell you stuff. You've got things like the early release of the podcast. We've got the hilarious ACP blooper reels. We've got the ACP mag dump that we just recorded. We have ACP film tracks where it's generally David, Oddball, and I, and maybe a few others talking during a movie, which Erin considers ruining it so much that, Erin, what did you do?
So I have released my first episode of Speaking of Shogun, and I'm going to try and release the second episode before I head off to LibertyCon. And, unlike what Weer'd and the gang do, I pause and then ramble, and then you can continue watching. On the other hand, you'll have me like, oh, and I forgot, and then I pause it again and go off for another 10 to 15 minutes. It's okay if you don't like it. I realize I'm an acquired taste.
I enjoy ACP film tracks, and I was wondering about Erin's idea for Shogun, and I really, really enjoyed that as well. So I highly recommend it.
Oh, right. Well, you varied from the script, and it kind of threw me. Also, please remember to rate us on Apple Podcasts, subscribe to us on the platform of your choice, and share the show with your friends, both online and off.
I got a blog. You can get more from me at weirdworld.com. That's WEERDworld.com. And hear me weekly on Handgun Radio on the Firearms Radio Network. And Oddball, where can people find you?
Well, it seems like I more often than not can also be found at Handgun Radio. And I have a blog at gunscarstech.com. And you can find me usually hanging around at our ACP Facebook group, and of course, check out my wife's blog podcast called Meowcore. It's about heavy metal and cats.
David, where can people find you?
Well, I tend to hang around by the edge of the woods because that's where Gen X likes to play.
It's true.
Well, and until the streetlights come on, and then you have to go home.
Maybe. I also obviously hear occasionally on Handgun Radio when they record at a decent hour. And I need to get another one out so I can continue to be a contributing member of Blue Collar Prepping. Also published author. Books on Amazon have my stories under Brenna Bach or David Bach.
And of course, Erin Paulette, where can they find you?
And you can get more from me at Linktree/Erin Paulette. That's linktree.ee/Erin Paulette, all one word.
And thanks to Nate Spencer for our music.
We're going to LibertyCon, and Weer'd isn't. Wah, wah. Our convention attendance is assorted, and so's our podcast. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.